Okay, I can't wait to check on them. Got another batch of meat birds here in the water trough brooder. I think I ordered 25 and they sent me like 28, and so far, knock on wood, we haven't lost any. Poor old Callie, she just can't take her eyes off of those things. I wasn't planning on doing any more meat birds this year, but if you caught the live stream, then you know why I've got these guys. The other night, somehow or another, the freezer door was cracked open and all of the chicken that I raised this year thawed out and went bad. It was starting to stink a little bit, so I had to end up throwing all of that away. Although these chicks are only a few days old, it looks like they've already outgrown the little feeder I got in there for them, so I think we're gonna upgrade them to one of these guys. We'll upgrade you to the big dog here. Oh yeah, they like that. It'd be nice if I could see one walk over and take a bite out of there, but of course they're afraid of it because it's new. I imagine it won't take them too long though to get used to it. So yeah, just when I thought I was done with chickens for the year, looks like we're starting from square one. Callie, you have a problem. We got plenty more to do today, so we better get to it. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. I know I'm repeating myself, but man, I just cannot get that new feeder finished fast enough. If I have time today, I will work on it a little bit more. We're getting real close. Well, what's this? We got a freeloader here. That rooster, he's a survivor. Now we know why. I suppose it's going to be any day that I'll look out here and see the harvesters starting to harvest this rice. It looks like it's ready to go any minute. And I know that rice is not real common in a lot of places, but it is quite common around here. So I thought I'd give you guys a close-up look at the rice plant and the rice kernel, so the next time you're eating rice, you'll kind of know where it came from. The rice seeds, I guess my neighbor won't mind if I take a little bit here to show you. So you've just got all these little grains of rice. They have a seed hole on it, like pretty much any grain. And if we pick that off. So here's a close-up. You can see the rice kernels with the hole on and with the hole off. After the rice is harvested, they'll take it back to a rice dryer and dry it down to a specific moisture where they can then store it in bins or warehouses until it's ready to be sold. You guys have probably seen in the background, my neighbor has his own dryer over there. So why do they grow so much rice in this area? Well, you basically need three things to grow rice. You need the right kind of weather, the right kind of ground, and enough water. And we've got all three. Rice does well in clay type soils or vertisol soils. And the reason is because they hold water. You have to have like 2 to 3 inches of water out in these fields all summer long. And what makes that even a little bit more difficult is that rice also likes hot weather. When we get these 100+ degree days, we as humans may not like it too much, but the rice loves it. Had 5 checks going last night. It looks like the last 3 are done and the first 2 need a little bit more time. So I got to pull my dams up here and move them over there. The dams are necessary because wherever the cow trails cross the levees, they cut a nice little groove right in the levee, and then obviously it no longer holds water. On my to-do list for this fall, which is now, it's kind of just occurring to me. I guess I could do it in the winter time if the weather cooperates, but I'd like to get my ridger fixed up and re-pull a bunch of these levees so that I'm not having to patch them all the time while I'm irrigating. Oh, that wasn't a very good throw. The cow trails cutting over the levees is probably the biggest drawback to doing a more intensive rotational graze out here. I could get around this by having portable water that I could move right along with the cows, but I've thought about that, and it just seems like the equipment that I would need to move water for this number of head, I mean, that would have to be a gigantic water tank, and I'm just not sure that the cost of that and the extra labor involved is worth the trade-off. What do you got? What do you got? Well, she thinks she's got something. You get it? Leave it. Oh, look at you. Is that a gopher or a mouse? All right, that's all you. I think she caught herself a baby gopher there. That's pretty common when we irrigate because the water fills up those gopher holes and kind of forces them to come out. So usually when she gets on something like that, it's an adult gopher, but I don't know, she found a baby. But back to the water. You know, the other option, I could trench and extend my water line down to the end of this pasture and put a few more water troughs along that fence line. But again, we're looking at a lot of work, a lot of expense, and I think out of all these three solutions, the cheapest one that is the least amount of labor is just re-pulling these levees every other year or maybe every year and just doing it that way. All right, looks like we're to the end of the water right about here. So this still got a little ways to go, a couple hours anyway. It will start moving a lot faster now though after shutting down those other three. Boy, she's on the hunt today, that is for sure. And for those of you that feel sorry for the gophers, well, I don't really know what to tell you. I'm not gonna try to stop Callie from catching them because for one, I don't want them out here, and for two, you can't stop a dog from hunting like that any more than you can stop a fish from swimming. Next order of business, I wanna check on number 57 here, see how the limp's coming along. She's laying down right now, and I kind of feel like I shouldn't bother her and get her up on her feet. But maybe if we hang out for a minute, she might stand up on her own. It's been a couple minutes, and she doesn't really seem to have much interest in standing up. But I do notice that the flies are kind of bad on her, so while she's laying down there not moving, this would be a good time to spray her. And I bet you 2 to 1, once I start spraying her, she'll want to stand up. That I would want. Well, how do we feel? Take a step for me. It looks like she's still a little bit sore, but she's definitely getting better. She can walk pretty good, honestly. I mean, if you remember when I first got her in, every step she would take, it was like she just didn't want to put an ounce of weight on that thing, and she would kind of grunt and groan to get around, and all that's gone now. She's putting weight on it. She doesn't seem real uncomfortable when she's walking, but you can definitely still detect a limp. So we're gonna keep her locked up until that's all cleared up. And if you're thinking, man, she doesn't look much different from the last video where I updated you on her, well, that's because that video I shot yesterday, so she probably doesn't look much different. I actually think she looks a little bit better today, but it's not going to be as noticeable because that was, you know, shoot, 12 hours ago. Other way, you know, she's a little bit sore is I imagine she's been laying down all morning the way that calf is nursing on her. I don't think he's had breakfast yet. And as long as we're standing right here, this is where I've got the ridger parked. This is the implement that I would use to re-pull the levees down in the field like I was talking about before. I want to show you guys what I'm up against with this thing, why I can't just hook onto it and use it the way it sits. So you can see what this is. It's got two short gangs of disc blades, and they are facing each other so that they throw the dirt in between the two gangs, and that's what makes your ridge. The blades are progressively bigger from outside to in, which I guess, I don't know, helps it do that better somehow. So I don't know how critical. I've seen these where the blades are all the same size, but this is how this one has always been set up, so I don't have plans to change it. What I do have plans to change, though, are the bearings that hold these gangs in place. The problem is that this is a Towner ridger. And if you've never heard of Towner, it's because you don't live around here locally, or it's because that company no longer exists. And nobody is making these disc bearings anymore. You can see that I've converted a couple of them over to John Deere style bearings, and those more or less work, but there is a little bit of modification to do that. The problem with the John Deere bearings is that the last one I replaced, oh, that was probably like 15 years ago maybe, and then that bearing cost $300. So I'm guessing, if I can even find them now, that they're probably close to $1,000, just, you know, because of what's happened in recent years. These are cast bearings, and what has happened, the reason that I've already had to change a couple of them, is that if you get in some hard ground and the disc really bites, then it cracks them and breaks them. So I think this one's covered in morning glory, but it is broken, so I want to show you. So yeah, hopefully you can see right here, this cast piece is broken off, and I think it's cracked somewhere else, but I don't remember exactly where. You can also see on the end of the gang rod here, it's real loose, and if you were to put this disc into the ground, that blade would just be flopping all over the place. So what I'm getting around to saying is I don't want to go spend possibly $2,000. Let's just say the bearings are still $300, which there's no chance of, but let's just say for discussion's sake that they are. I don't want to go spend $600 on this thing. So my plan, or what I'm hoping that I'm able to do, is convert these bearings over to like a greasable type roller bearing. And I found some on Amazon, they're like $30 a piece, which makes me think, on the one hand, yeah, that's affordable. I could live with that. But on the other hand, it makes me wonder how good they are. I mean, at 30 bucks a piece, I think it's definitely worth a try. The big problem, or what would really be a waste if it doesn't work, is that I'm gonna have to put a lot of time and effort into figuring out how to adapt that frame to the new style bearing. I've got an idea of how to do it, but it's gonna take some figuring. So yeah, we'll probably honestly have to start on this sooner than later, because I'm gonna need it pretty soon. You know, or just wait and do it next year. I'm back in the shop now. I want to try to get a little bit of work done on the pig feeder. You know, some days you can devote all day to this thing, and sometimes maybe I just get an hour to work on it, but still, it's an hour that I didn't have done yesterday. The other day I started bending up these little, I'm calling them gutters, but really they're just like a lip that's gonna go around the opening of the feeder. And we'll have the lids close on top of these, and then the lids will like roll over this lip so that when it gets rained on, hopefully it'll keep most of the water out of there. It probably won't keep it all out, but it'll keep some. So I think what I want to try to get done today is just get these welded in place, at least on one side, and then I can start figuring out how to build the lids and also how to build the hinges. Okay. The first piece that I welded on is the tricky one because it's got all the bends in it, and then we'll just kind of join this guy and have him go straight down. Down here at the bottom, at the edge of the trough, I think I'll cut these off and then sort of round them over so that when the pigs do have their heads in here, there's not a lip gouging them in the throat while they're eating. In order to close this gap so that rodents can't get in there, we'll have to add a little piece to the lid itself. But that shouldn't be a big deal. Well, I think it's safe to say that this was the easy part, putting the little rain gutters on this thing. Now I've got to cut out a lid that's going to fit over here kind of perfectly, and then I've got to leave myself enough of a tab on the end so that I can fold it over and, you know, make a lid that seals onto this. So unfortunately, this piece of sheet metal doesn't have, it's got a good edge on this side, but everything else is a little bit crooked. So that's gonna be a little bit more cutting for us, which is all right. But you know, adds another step, so. Start with a good straight line. Well, maybe this is right. We're gonna cut this out and try it. Yeah, I guess let's start with the hard one. If we can't do that, then you know, we need to come up with a different plan. So now you see why 16 gauge was definitely the better choice. Trying to do that with 10 gauge, I don't think it would have worked. We still could run into big problems here. And that edge looks pretty good though. Got one more edge that I need to fold over here, but I'll have to cut a piece that fits in there so that it can fold over. But we do have enough done here to see if it's gonna fit. And, we're a little too narrow. I think the rest of it would fit, but we need a little more room on this side. Darn it. Well, you get the idea though, like what it's gonna be. Because all these openings are a little bit of a different size, there's a chance that this might fit somewhere else, or when we weld the little rain gutters on, we could weld one on and kind of make sure that this one fits so that this effort wasn't for nothing. Well, the batteries died on the GoPro, so I'm sure I look a little bit different to you right now because I'm gonna finish this one up on my phone. This idea is gonna work. We've at least proved that. Bending the lids up in the vise, using angle iron instead of like a proper sheet metal brake will work for this, but I've just got to sort of rethink my tolerances, and if I do that, then I think everything is gonna fit. But we're gonna worry about that in another video. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.